He was 18 when he enlisted. He was 18 when they told him it was an honor. He was 18 when I was standing next to his corpse when we repelled the orcs. I never asked what the honor was for.
Welcome, Initiate. The Imperium calls the Imperial Guard their heroes, the Emperor's hammer, humanity's great shield. Billions of ordinary men and women standing between civilization and darkness, choosing sacrifice over survival because they believe in something worth dying for. But here's what the Tithe papers actually mean. The Astra Militarum is not an army. Not in the sense that word was designed to be, it is a machine. That machine's primary resource is not only strategy, technology, or even faith, it's bodies. This broadcast exists to ask one question. We know they are stalwart and heroic, but is that because of the system or despite it? Here is the sanctioned version. The Astra Militarum is humanity's first and greatest line of defense. Yes, Space Marines are superior, but we need to think of them like a scalpel. They are experts at precise operations. The Guard is the hammer. Every world in the Imperium contributes to the Tithe. Billions of souls offered in service to the God Emperor. Young men and women raised up from factory floors, agra fields, or hive city slums, given a uniform, a lasgun, and a purpose greater than anything their birth world could have offered them. They fight, hold the line, and die when they must, knowing their sacrifice is seen and recorded. That somewhere on a golden world far, far away, a grateful Imperium honors what they gave. But we know that is bull. That story is pretty good, right? It works because it asks nothing of you except to believe it. And in a galaxy of unrelenting darkness, believing in something noble is worth something. The problem is, it doesn't explain why the tithe is collected at gunpoint. That is the first crack, the word choice of tithe. The same word used for grain or ore, for raw materials extracted from the ground and shipped to where the Imperium needs them. Planetary governors who fail to meet their tithe quotas are not reprimanded. They are replaced or executed, depending on the world. This is not a volunteer drive per se, it is a tax paid in people. The next crack is the Departmento Munitorum. Every soldier who enters the Guard enters a bureaucracy so vast, it has stopped being able to see individuals because regiments are not soldiers, they are assets. Losses are not tragedies, they are attrition rates. Hundreds of thousands advancing into a fortified position with no air support is not a massacre, is just a resource allocation decision made by someone at a desk 1,000 light years away who will never once know their names. And this is what should bother you, because the Munitorum is not malicious. It doesn't hate the men and women of the Imperial Guard that sends to die. It simply cannot afford to notice them, for the bureaucracy is too large. Somewhere in the gap between the scale of the Imperium and the size of a single human life, the individual disappears without cruelty, but with indifference. And in the 41st millennium, indifference is just as lethal as a bolt round. The last crack is the Commissariat. Every regiment has commissars, political officers, independent and unaccountable, empowered to execute any soldier who shows cowardice, incompetence, or insufficient enthusiasm for dying in the Emperor's name. Not all commissars are the same. Some of them inspire their men, and some of them execute with insanity. But they all ensure the line holds. It is to be certain that the enemy in front of you is less frightening than the officer behind you, and that works. The problem is that this situation is not a compliment. When a guardsman advances into withering fire, he is not making a heroic choice. He only makes a calculation, because to stop means a guaranteed bolt round to the back of the head, and to advance means a likely death, but a possible survival. The commissar's pistol removes the choice entirely, turning courage into the path of least resistance. The Imperium calls this morale reinforcement. What would you call it? Because even with this pressure over their shoulders, the Guards still advance. And when you look at all the cracks together, the conscription, bureaucracy, and commissars, a pattern emerges. A system working exactly as designed, without flaws or failure of management. The Imperium's single greatest resource, bodies. Raw manpower replenished every generation by 1 trillion breeding worlds, fed into a machine that converts human life into territorial control. The galaxy is too large, the enemies too numerous, and the conflicts too unwinnable for precision to be the strategy. Attrition is. You send enough soldiers into enough guns until the guns run out, and when that happens, you send more. The standard Imperial Guard lasgun is commonly referred to as a flashlight by the Guard themselves. Don't get me wrong, it is reliable, versatile, and easy to maintain, but against Chaos Space Marines, Tyrannid bioforms the size of Hab blocks, Necron warriors who cannot permanently die, that is an appropriate nickname. They get deployed to some of the worst front lines that a guardsman's life expectancy can drop to 15 hours. You heard that right, hours. And the Departmento Munitorum knows this and account for it in the Tithe projections, the replacement request forms, the casualty rate calculations that come back from every war zone in the galaxy and are filed, processed, and used to calculate how many more bodies will be needed next campaign season. These are not soldiers, they are, functionally, ammunition in a war too large for anything else. A machine that was never designed to stop, and somehow, they still hold the line. But sometimes, that is not enough, and the line breaks. And when that happens, there are regiments that are still standing. The Death Korps of Krieg. Krieg was an agri-world that fought a civil war lasting 500 years. When it ended, the Loyalists finally broke the traitor-held hive cities with nuclear weapons, killing most of their own planet to do it. The survivors made a decision, but not a military one, a theological one. They decided their world owed a debt for the original sin of producing traitors at all, and for the fact that Krieg had, once, failed the Emperor. The survivors built a culture around paying that debt, creating a sacrifice cycle, soldiers born into regiments rather than families, and trained from birth not to win wars, but to die for a purpose in them. The Death Korps doesn't fight to survive, they do to deserve to have existed in the first place. They advance through gas clouds without flinching, hold positions until the very last man, volunteering for assaults where the cost is already understood, and spending their lives purchasing ground. These crazy bastards need a commissar, but two told them not to charge. They are already broken in the most useful possible direction, towards the enemy. The Death Korps has one of the highest deployment rates of any regiment in the Guard. Cheap to maintain, reliable, and will advance where others break, they are what the Imperium system produces when it is running at full efficiency. A soldier who doesn't need to be convinced to die.
Seems like we have two versions of the Astra Militarum. The first one is humanity's greatest shield, ordinary men and women who rose to the extraordinary facing horrors that should have broken them and held the line, who chose sacrifice over survival because they believed in something worth dying for. All of them are true heroes. The second one is a machine, built to convert human life into territorial control, a system of conscription, bureaucratic indifference, and threat of execution that ensures bodies keep moving towards guns, regardless of what the bodies think about it, with a tithe paid in people. The Illuminati broadcast network doesn't tell you what to believe, but we surely have a message in this. Both versions are true. The machine is real, the indifference is real, those 15 hours, the flashlight, and the bolt round waiting behind you, all real. And yet, on 100,000 worlds, in 100,000 nameless ditches, soldiers who knew all of that, who had felt the bureaucracy's indifference, who had seen the commissar's pistol, who understood exactly what the tithe meant, held the line anyway, not because the system or the Imperium deserved it, because the person next to them did. That is not the heroism the Munitorum sells. It doesn't come with a prayer or a benediction. It comes from a person in a ditch who knows they will probably die forgotten, on a world they've never heard of, in a war they didn't start, and with all of that, they go forward and still holds the fucking line.
The question this broadcast leaves open, the one this department cannot answer, is whether the people who design that system deserve the soldiers who make it work. Astra Militarum report is closed. Hope you like it, and thanks for watching.